Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here to review The Running Man. So, this is an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. Maybe to some people, there might also be some familiar stars here. Maybe like Richard Dawson if you liked Family Feud. Or you also like Jesse Ventura because maybe you saw Predator, which is great. So, there are some interesting characters being presented in here because when looking at this first, if you were to hear the concept of this where it's Arnold Schwarzenegger and it's Richard Dawson and they are fighting it out. On paper, that sounds weird. On paper, I'm like, there's got to be more to that. And then you'll find out that Richard Dawson has a litany of locker room like characters that are all going to come out to fight Ben, Arnold Schwarzenegger. So we are here. We're here to mention this movie. It seems like I'm bizarrely timing things out. We're here to mention this movie because ultimately 2017 was the year the destruction of this world had happened, to where it's all left into turmoil. 2017. I love these past films that ultimately have a future date that basically just like say, like, this is where the world went to crap, and then you're like, well, it's 2017. Anyways, we have Arnold go and very much be like this seemingly innocent person that is just going to be watching over, in the beginning of this film, a riot. And he is going to not want to take a command because he knows it's not right. Funny enough, there are some stuff when we get to the ICS company that is grabbing Arnold to put him in this game show. They are going to make up stuff about Ben. They're going to make up stuff about William. They're going to make up stuff about Marvin, who eventually, when I get to this, you will know as well. So, and we also have the female Amber, who eventually you will know. So, every time you're going to see Arnold, he's going to just like, he's going to be grabbing things and like flinging things around, cameras, just like, you really see the fighting back and forth of chainsaws, hockey sticks, just like kitchen sink like things that are just like, okay, dynamo, that electrical fighting like approach. Like, this comes down to like Arena 2011. Comes down to like Mortal Kombat. Comes down to any number of things. When you want to say a fighting movie, this takes that to the next level for what I know about it. Watching it again. So, let's get into spoilers about this because ultimately, I want to hope somebody will know about this movie because this movie is exciting. It is. It's interesting. So, Richard Dawson, if you didn't know, Family Feuds. Ultimately, I know at the very tail end of Family Feuds, I know he would go into. Or I was familiar with the Family Feuds, like I would see reruns every once in a while, where he would talk about A Kiss for Luck. It was great. Um, there's like funny, interesting game. Like it's interesting to see game shows where they are now compared to where they are in this movie. How they're like at their height, at their peak. So maybe there's something like maybe this 2017 thing is talking really about game shows. How it like after 2017, like slowly but surely game shows are slowly but surely becoming a hard thing to come by. So let's let's go into spoilers. So let's go into this. Ultimately, at the end of the day, let's go a little bit faster count because let's go into spoiler time. Spoiler time. Spoiler time again. Spoil this movie. Running Man. The Running Man. In the very beginning of this movie, we have Arnold who is seeing a riot. Ultimately, he's getting a intercom going on within his headset to tell him, hey, you need to fire on those people. You need to fight. You need to shoot via you being on this helicopter. You need to shoot these people that are rioting. Because that is the beginning setup of this movie. Arnold, helicopter, with three other men just going, watching a riot via high up stance. And they're watching this riot go on. And so ultimately, they're just telling him to fire on everyone. And he's like, I'm not going to do that. To hell with you. So, because he won't do the command, people think that he's rebelling. They're grabbing him, pushing him out of this helicopter. And eventually he's just going to be shoved in some prison where he's just going to live the rest of his life. Being an innocent, but edited differently. We ultimately have him being placed with metal necklaces, which ultimately William, which will be with him this entire time as his getaway from this future prison. We have Marvin, who is also necklace from this future prison that they're going to break out of. That's set in 2017. A little bit of time conflict with the gadgetry they go into. But these metal necklaces remind me of Battle Royale, and so reasonably, these people have only so long to run, and then there's going to be this like mining field around this entire environment that when they start to run, their heads will go kablooey. They had to show that, which I thought was cool. To show us why they needed the metal necklaces. They had like a landmine like environment. The only thing that I don't like about this movie is that we don't get enough backstory about how everyone got to where they were, but that would take too much time. So Arnold eventually is running in this movie, and we have him running, and reasonably, like, that is the big selling point that Richard Dawson is calling up someone to get him, to find him, and to gas him up, to knock him out, to make sure that he does this show that they need him to do. So we have these three characters: Ben, who's played by Arnold, Marvin, and William. and they are escaping from this prison. And basically this escape is kind of a mood point, because they are just going to get right back into another prison-like environment that they have to consistently survive. In the beginning of this like futuristic like prison, it's kind of just a mining like construction, like they're holding like giant metal beams on their arms and stuff like that. Kind of reminds me of the log that Arnold held in like Commando. So pushing into that, Ben seems to be the one that we focus on. Arnold seems to be the one that we focus on because Arnold, after all these people escape, they go their separate ways. They get all their necklaces off. And eventually Ben runs into Amber. Because Ben runs into Amber because there is a friend of Ben's that ultimately he easily thought that he can just like go into his hotel room and be able to just easily take things from, take clothes, take uh, tank tops. And then ultimately when like Ben just breaks into this room because he thinks that it's his one of his friend's places, it ends up he bumps into Amber, who Amber is very much like just like taken, grabbed, and then like tied to a Bowflex. Or I believe it's a Bowflex. So, because again, Arnold, intimidation factor. So, Arnold pulls up the Bowflex that is like screwed to the ground, which I'm like, okay, that doesn't quite make sense. I'm like, you're ripping this from the ground. Like, I don't know of any like devices that would be like screwed to the ground. I don't know very much, but I guess that makes sense, right? And it's screwed to the ground. Okay, all right, that's weird. So Arnold is stealing from Amber, and she she's stealing from him, or Arnold stealing from her, ultimately like mentioning like that he wants to go like overseas or something like that, to like possibly Guam or somewhere else where it's warm, because that's what he likes, because tank top. So Amber goes to like forcibly goes with him so that way he can get a plane flight out. And so Amber eventually tells Arnold that she's like, dude, like I'm all kinds of like I'm car sick, I'm plane sick, if anything, gonna throw up on you. Like it's going to happen. And Arnold's like, well, it won't show on this shirt because he's wearing a Hawaiian shirt. So we have Arnold that is pushing to escape. He's pushing to escape to try to find some way of using Amber to escape all of this. But instead, Richard Dawson is on the phone getting this man. So there's if there wasn't a wanted thing for him before, like Richard Dawson is making sure like phone call away to get Arnold. So Arnold eventually tries to escape, but he sticks out. He sticks out too much. So eventually, like while he's running through the airport trying to escape all these people after him, eventually he gets netted and dropped. And that's basically to tell us that ultimately he's going to be in the clutches of Richard Dawson, ultimately to forcibly play the game that Richard wants him to do, and ultimately forcibly having him sign a contract, which I thought was hilarious when like the guy was giving like, hey, here's the contract to sign, convict. Like, here, you can sign it on my back. And then Arnold signs away this contract and then takes the pen and drives this into this guy's back. Which is like, ow! God. But it's just like that moment is funny. Because it's just, that's what you get when you're. ah, stabbed with pencils, stabbed with pens. It hurts. I've had it done to me once, and when I was at school, and where a kid behind me in class would just poke me with pencils. I was trying to get him to stop. It happens. So, mood point. If anything, just bringing it up quickly. So, we have Arnold eventually going into the ICS like background game show like thing. Richard Dawson is giving away like game board or the Running Man like game boards and stuff like that, just like consistently showering his like fans with stuff, which I thought was like, man, like they're really putting a lot of like product into this movie, where it's like maybe they were thinking they were gonna like merchandise this movie after this, which would be interesting to know if like were those just like a bunch of just props sitting in some museum somewhere? Maybe somebody bought them, because a lot of times you'd find like these antique shows where they just like, yeah, this is the copy of the Running Man board game I have. It's like, wow, that's interesting how you got that. Because, anyways, Running Man Ben has to be put into this mechanism that's going to shoot him out into the war zone, or the battle environment. So he's put in here, and he is to be pushed out of this sled like thing. And Richard Dawson is saying like, okay, well, like, now I'm going to tell you about Ben, and it's all lies, it's all made up. Ultimately, when Amber comes in, fabricated stuff as well, basically telling how Amber had a romantic relationship with Ben's character, and that isn't right as well. But it's just like interesting things uh, to placate for, and to build up to, like, that's the interesting thing about this movie, is like Amber and Ben will have this relationship, but it's a relationship that is strained, of course. So because we have Amber who is tied to this show, and when they end up finding that out, it's like, you know what? How about you go on this show as well, Amber? We'll just push you in there as well. We'll just shoot you out because we just want more players on this show, and like you're more innocent than anyone else, but she just found some records that were to blackmail like this company, and they're like, no, no, no. So William and Marvin are showcased, turned around to show that they are also going to be shoved into this game with Ben, because they were escaped convicts. Or eventually, Richard's character took the time to find, and so they're all getting shot into this danger zone battle world, and they're all there to fight a person that an audience picks. A buzzsaw, a fireball, dynamo, Sub-Zero. There's always somebody in the audience that is screaming out some name to bid on. And there's always some audience member where eventually they get to them and then they shell out some name. But there was at one point where somebody asked, like, well, who do you want to bid on who's going to win this whole thing? And she yells out, Ben. I'm like, yeah! And then bizarrely, there's like there's a huge chalkboard thing of people betting on everyone for this show. And ultimately, they write in Ben. And I'm like, yeah, like this, Ben's such an unstoppable force that they're putting their money on him. So that's great. So we have Ben being shot out as well as all of his friends. A lot of the characters that are going to be thrusted in here are probably not all going to be like, it just seems like one after the other. Like I think Sub-Zero comes out early, a big hockey like goalie that has a big hockey stick and like goes out there, and like there's one time where he takes the hockey stick and just like wraps it around with like, where like, oh no, Ben takes the hockey stick and wraps it around with barbed wire, and that's how they kill Sub-Zero. That's how they kill him. But there's one time where Sub-Zero is pushing Marvin into this goal, and like the goal is a trap, which I thought was interesting. They are like, Sub-Zero I think only shoots like one hockey puck out to them, but doesn't really hit anybody. We eventually have it to where Arnold eventually gets the stick away from Sub-Zero because of how this thing is like a scythe. It's like there's a blade at the end of it. So Arnold takes the hockey stick, barbed wires it up, then slides off to another side and chokes Sub-Zero with his own seemingly variation of a barbed wire hockey stick, like lined out, because Sub-Zero is just like swinging with skates along, with ice skates. Sub-Zero drops, and here's where we get these like funny liners and stuff like that, which is really cool. Because Arnold, of course, throws it to Richard that he's like, I'll be back. And so now, once we get here to Sub-Zero, once Arnold kills Sub-Zero, he's like, yeah, you're Sub-Zero? Plane Zero. I love that line. It's great. So we push on to eventually having there to be more. There's even more battles to be fought. We have another. Villain out there called Dynamo. That he ultimately has like he's like an opera singer, and he has this like weird mohawk. His entire body is made out of this like weird looking like Christmas tree-ish light up like apparatus, which ultimately Arnold shouts out that, hey, Christmas tree! Come and get me! Because like at first Dynamo is in this vehicle, which I was kind of curious why have him in that vehicle? Like I'm kind of curious about the actor, why they put him in this odd looking vehicle. I guess like they were trying to go with like a lot of like a chrome-ish like vehicle, or maybe they were like having this guy just be like a Batman in this movie. Which ultimately, like, Dynamo comes back later to fight Amber, but Dynamo loses. So we have it to, so first we get another character called Buzzsaw. After Sub-Zero. So Buzzsaw eventually is on a motorcycle and has like two saws, of course, chainsaws, and here's where we start losing people. Here's where like things will get crazy, because we have Buzzsaw, who is just like, man, like his face is just like priceless. This guy who plays Buzzsaw, man, this guy is just, man. Professor Tanaka, or no, that's Sub-Zero. I probably won't get it, so we're not gonna go for the actor's name. But anyway, so we have Buzzsaw, who eventually takes down William, and then almost takes down Ben. But there's like this back and forth battle going on, which ultimately Arnold like chainsaws this guy completely in half and kills him. You just kind of see like a belt where half of it's Buzz and half of it's Saw, and that's a cool moment. And so William's taken down, but he's not completely out. Like, basically, because we still have like where he's just kind of like at this point just kind of like barely holding on. Because when William and Ben like high five, that was Sub-Zero, but when like Arnold is coming back to William to make sure he's okay after he kills Buzzsaw, and then he realizes that like this is probably the last moments them two are going to talk. So eventually William, finally after Ben kills Hacksaw, because William pushed Arnold out of the way to take the brunt of this chainsaw, for Ben. And so Ben, out of anger and grief, killed Hacksaw, laying that moment out. Ben, so William's dead. So William's dead, so now we have Marvin and Amber that are trying to crack down some codes. Crack down some codes for the link in the system that they have there. Because Marvin was looking around to see uplinks and stuff like that to try to figure out how to take this system down so they can eventually escape. Escape away from these cameras, because you can't escape the cameras. So Marvin is going with Amber, and he is having her try to remember all of these numbers. So she tries to remember all of them. And all while that's going on, we have Dynamo driving in to eventually not find Amber, but find Marvin and kill him off. But then Dynamo is going to hunt down Amber, which is going to get Ben to find out where they are at and take down Dynamo by watering him down and then like holding him in to his vehicle to where he cannot get out, to where he's stuck. To ultimately Dynamo is saying, throw to commercial, and so I thought that was fun. Like, he's just like, yeah, don't show me looking bad, like, don't show me die, throw to commercial. So we have Arnold eventually talking to Richard Dawson eventually, because everybody is starting to root for Ben. And if anything, after, especially Fireball, when Fireball comes out, to have Amber notice in this locker room that all past winners had ultimately died. Fireball is going to be put in there and to try to go after them because Sub-Zero. So, of course, like, basically easily enough, like, Ben eventually just like cracks the tank of Fireball, kills him off as per usual with a fire apparatus, a flamethrower. There we go, flamethrower like apparatus. So we have Arnold, who after all this is eventually, again, after talking to Fireball, or killing Fireball, goes onto the telephone, or goes onto the billboard of a telephone actually thing, because, like, so, telephone. Why am I saying telephone? We have Ben, billboard looking at Richard Dawson, and he's ultimately mentioning, like, hey, like, how about you stay on as a killer, and that'll be the end of this. Like, how about we, like, contract you as a stalker? So Arnold grabs and rips off this camera, not a telephone, grabs this camera, breaks it off, and wants his face as close to the camera as it can get. And he mentions, like, I'm coming for you, Killian, coming for everyone. So, because Richard Dawson is telling him this whole conversation between Richard and him is all private. So, we have we have Ben and Amber eventually falling into the clutches of some resistance in this world. Right shortly thereafter this, and they are going to hide them and ultimately tell them they're like, hey, we're gonna finally go after this Richard guy because we've gone into hiding for so long, and like now we're finally going to fight back against him because like everybody's not who he says that we were. So now we're going to change his game show to tell people the truth, and so that way there's real true evidence to set Ben free. So eventually all of these resistant members eventually make it to the ICS game show like headquarters, and so they all barrel in, and Dawson is like, oh crap, because they had stuntmen forcibly fight a faked fight that had Jesse Ventura and a stunt double who was supposedly Arnold, and they were fighting it out, and they were both just out muscling one another, locked up together, as wrestling terms. So they have they had this fake match which they killed off Ben, which wasn't true. And so now Ben is showing up to say that his death was faked, and then now he's gonna go after Richard Dawson, take all the people that were left of the ICS company out, and ultimately Arnold is going to shoot out Dawson. Like, Arnold had been shot out by Richard. And that is the conclusion of this movie. Arnold really is a like an interesting character. I wish there were some times when there were more times where you could have seen him, besides maybe a Twins or something like that, like do a real attempt at a like real true comedy. But we'll never get to see that. But it would be interesting to see where like there's times where like Terminator Genesis he does jokes, and all the Terminator movies he eventually does jokes, but that's like it would be interesting to see like if he did a real true comedy. But Arnold's probably just maybe typecasted to action movies. I don't know. There's a lot of people that might do that. There's a lot of people that have like really stretched, being able to be such more wide range of characters, and I love them for that. I love them for that. So let's go into closing this up and just say, hey, like a lot of this review probably wasn't overly detailed, but I had fun talking about this one, and I didn't want to take too long for it. So let's call this one a wrap for today. Goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody.